Welcome, Drink with James, episode 159. I'll be honest, I have not had a great day so far. Later this month, I'm going to be going with a few influencers to Bangladesh with a charity called Concern. Concern is an amazing charity that does most of their work in the most dangerous, most distressed kind of crises zones in the world. So we are going to go to the refugee camps in Bangladesh. So the problem is, long story short, I need to get a Bangladeshi visa, but I also need to leave the country. So I am a creative problem solver, right? Like, I'm not good at most things, but I am a good problem solver. So look, I've got to go to Bangladesh in a few weeks. I got to leave the country on Friday. It takes 2 weeks to get a visa. It seems like there's no solution. There's always a solution. So I found out that if in this situation, you can actually, any citizen can apply to have 2 passports. So for this exact thing. So if you have to leave your passport with a consulate so that you can get a visa, but you need to leave the country, you obviously need a passport to do that. So you can have 2. So I'm about to have 2 passports, which is so fucking baller. And I'm probably gonna walk around with both of them all the time and take it out and be like, oh, sorry, which passport? I have 2. Like, I'm just like traveling so much that like I need multiple passports. But to do this, I had to stand in line at the passport center, I don't know what the hell it's called, in New York City. I was there for 6 hours today. Took the phone from 100% to 0 in like 5 hours of that, and then spent an hour just looking at the scene in the passport office in New York, which is a scene of panic and desperation, because you can't even enter this place unless your flight is within 2 weeks. So most people are like flying out that day and have realized their passport's expired. You can get a passport in New York City same day. I've done it before. This is my second time being at this place. I heard a friend that was there not too long ago. The woman in front of him went to JFK to go fly to Europe for vacation, didn't know that you needed a passport to go abroad, and it just hadn't gotten one. So had to like move her flight a day, go back, apply for the passport, get it, and leave. So it is a desperate kind of bleak scene, but for a government organization run fairly efficiently, I got approved for my second passport. I would say I'm picking it up, but my assistant is picking it up right now, I think. And I'm gonna be living that 2 passport life, which I didn't even know was an aspiration, but now I will scoff at anyone that just has 1 passport as just, some sort of pleb. So I did that. Just another kind of quick random story. I also had to get a bunch of shots to go over there. So I had to get like a hepatitis A and a typhoid fever or some shit, I don't know. So I go to get these shots, and I go to this clinic in Midtown, and it's like, it says, travel clinic and like STD clinic. All right, so these are 2 things this clinic does, is give people shots for their travels and I guess test for STDs. So I'm in the waiting room with like 10 people under the age of 35, and you kind of have to look around and be like, who's here for travel and who's here for STDs? Because like we're all in this waiting room together and everyone is thinking the same thing. Anyway, that was my last 24 hours. Shots and the passport, I don't know what it's called, the passport office? I don't know. But now we're doing Drink with James. I am going on my annual family vacation, going to Costa Rica next week. So when this comes out, I will be in Costa Rica. So I would say DM me things, but I think we've already planned everything. So save your breath and your DMs. But I'm excited to go to Costa Rica, but that means we're filming 2 this week. So I need to hold a little back for the episode that we're filming Friday. I can't give you all the fire this week in this one episode. Before we dive in, I want to just make a quick call to say we can always use more questions. Look, I'm very good at this, obviously. I think we can all agree on that. But I'm only as good as the questions I get. And recently, I haven't gotten that many questions. And you guys might think, James is fine. He'll just pull something out of his ass. And I do, right? But it's more annoying and it's more difficult for me to do that. So if you have questions, please send them to brian@fohr.co.
Or you can just leave them in the comments.
Or you can just leave them in the comments on the YouTube, or you can leave them in the comments on Instagram, or you can DM us or DM me. DMing me is probably the least, effective way to get this done. But please send those questions in. So let's roll into questions. Question 1 is how to repost Insta stories from your audience in a way that isn't annoying. This is something that I've really just kind of started to notice more, and not because it's happening more, but I think I've just started to notice it annoying me more. And when you go to an influencer's stories, and again it looks like it's got the perforated edge across the top of you're in for a 30-story day from them, and it's all just people posting about the influencer, being like, oh my god, goals, oh my god, this person's amazing. I think if we go back to what we were talking about last week, right? Inspire, educate, entertain. I think the problem with blindly reposting people's content, or blindly reposting people talking about you or complimenting you or wishing you a happy birthday or congratulations, is that it doesn't inspire, entertain, or educate, right? It doesn't do anything for your audience. It makes you feel cool, right? I personally, I think, used to do more of this because it's nice to have people say nice things about you, and you want other people to know that people are saying nice things about you, especially if those other people are also kind of semi-influential. And then I was talking to a reporter friend, and she was like, it's kind of blasé. As a reporter, you don't retweet praise of your articles. That's just a no-go. And I thought that was interesting, because in the influencer space, if someone says anything nice about an influencer on Instagram, they just repost it without thinking about it, being like, thanks, babe. So I asked a few other reporters, and they were like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's kind of like an unwritten rule. You don't retweet praise of you. And so it shifted my perspective on reposting praise of your work or of what you're doing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think that influencers are held to the same standards as journalists necessarily. And I don't think influencers should take themselves as seriously as journalists, because honestly, journalists take themselves way too seriously. So I don't think you have to say I'm not going to do this. I do think that think about, educate, inspire, or entertain, and think about how you're going to do that, right? If you are launching something and people are going to repost it a lot, we'll do this on Fohr sometimes. We'll collect a bunch of the kind of reaction posts, and we'll put them all into a couple stories. So we'll lay them out all together on a page and say thank you there. If your goal is, I want people to know that people are talking about this, then actually the worst way to do that is to regram every fucking time somebody talks about it, right? Because that feels small. An example, moving out of the influencer space, Chance came out with his new album last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Once you hear this, a week ago, I don't know. And on his Twitter, he's been retweeting random fans complimenting his album. And to me, it feels like kind of sad, because it's like, why is Chance the Rapper with 7.5 million followers retweeting random fans, right? Like, for me as a Chance fan, these tweets do fuck all for me. They're so boring, right? And it also is like, why is he doing this? Shouldn't it be bigger than like him kind of like taking this one small compliment and sharing it with his 7.5 million people? And so I think as an influencer, you have to think about, you know, the optics of what it looks like, but also like, what can you do to achieve the goal? Again, if the goal is, hey, people are talking about this, there's better ways to do that. I will sometimes use, you know, an influencer who is like mentioned Drink with James. I will use that to talk about it myself, which is totally fine, right? So like, if it's something that you haven't posted about, or you haven't posted about in a while or whatever, you can kind of use those posts to tell your own story on top of it. But just like blindly regramming everything it's not a strategy. It's the absence of a strategy. It's lazy. And I think at all costs, you should avoid doing it. This is your job, right? It's okay for your like friend you went to high school with who, you know, regrams the birthday wishes that they get. Like, that's fine. But this is your job. And I think you need to put a little bit more effort in than just saying add post to story and click the button to publish. That's just not enough. So question number 2 is about Fohr profiles. How do I keep my profile in tip-top shape? I believe last week I told you guys, if you haven't logged in, do it. That's the basics, right? Like, if your Instagram gets disconnected, we will email you. If your YouTube gets disconnected, we'll email you. We'll let you know those things have been disconnected so that you can come back and reconnect it. It's going to be hard to get any opportunities with us or our clients if your accounts aren't connected. It's going to be hard to get anything with us if you haven't submitted for verification. So if you haven't done that, absolutely make sure you go in and do that. And then there's a new feature we have called testimonials, where you can drive your audience to a page where they can leave you testimonials. Those testimonials then show up on your profile. We've had, how many testimonials left?
Oh, I don't know, 10,000?
Yeah. So this testimonials got launched a couple weeks ago. We've had about 10,000 testimonials left for influencers. Again, we use testimonials in the freshman class and the Sephora Squad activations that we did. What's different here is that you see the testimonials. So really, this is a way to just like get compliments, right? So if you're feeling a little down, go to Fohr, grab that testimonial Insta story, post it to the audience, and just like watch the compliments rush in. I think, you know, Grace Atwood did it last time I checked, and in like a day she had 500. That's 500 compliments. You know, I need to do it because I don't get complimented enough, honestly. So I think I need to get my testimonials out there so I can see all that good feedback. But what we're trying to do in all seriousness is give brands a look at what you do beyond just your feed, right? So the way your audience feels about you, the connection that they feel to you, the impact that you have had on your audience's life, that's what testimonials are trying to suss out. Things that when a brand went to your feed, they wouldn't be able to see. Like, they wouldn't be able to glean from just looking at your feed. So if you haven't done that, absolutely go check it out and go grab those testimonials. I think they'd be really beneficial, and I know clients are already using them quite a bit in their influencer selections. I also just recently, many episodes ago, we talked about influencers doing newsletters as a good way to stay in touch with your brand contacts, send out a monthly newsletter. We'll find what episode that is and link to it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I got one from an influencer the other day that had some of her testimonials from her audience in her newsletter. I thought that was a really clever way to use it. This isn't something you usually get as an influencer, right? You're getting reviewed essentially by your audience. And so if you have 100,000 followers and you feel like that's not much, but you can be like, hey, look at these 20 testimonials from my audience that talk about how important and influential I am in their lives. That can kind of tip the scale away from your following into this other place. So if you haven't done it, not only is it like a feel-good thing to do, but it really can help your business. Question number 3 is, what are standard usage rights? How should I be thinking about brands buying rights to my photos? So I will say a standard contract, if you work with Fohr on behalf of any of our clients, our contract gives the brand use of that content in their owned channels, so their Instagram, their Twitter, their Facebook, their Pinterest accounts. So it gives them the rights to use it in their owned channels. It does not give them the right to put any spend behind promoting that. So organically they can use it, but they can't put any ad spend behind it. It gives them the right to use it in a newsletter, but not to link to a product. So like you could be in the header of the newsletter linking to the homepage, and that would be under the contract. But if you were, if it is a photo of you, wearing a certain handbag, and it linked to that handbag, that wouldn't be allowed. Same, they can use it in their blog or something on their homepage. They can't use it in e-com, so it can't be, on a page that is driving to sales. So essentially, we give the brand rights to use it for anything that doesn't directly result in a sale. So if a brand is pushing you for usage rights, you 100%, it is industry standard to charge for that. What you charge becomes, varies greatly on what the ask is. Is it 1 month? Is it 3 months? Is it 2 years? The thing you have to think about with usage rights is, let's say you're doing hair care, shampoo, right? Let's say you do a shampoo ad, a sponsored post with the brand, and they buy 6-month usage rights on your photos. And then in 3 months, you do a post for another brand. But brand A still has usage rights and is running ads with your face and your content for a competitor of the brand you're talking about now. Now that puts you and your new client in a difficult situation. And that is a big reason why you're charging for usage rights, is that it kind of is like a form of exclusivity, because I think it is difficult for you to continue to do sponsored posts for a direct competitor knowing that someone else has usage rights on that same product. I would feel like if I was the brand and I bought a sponsored post from you, and then I logged into Instagram and I looked at that sponsored post, and then 4 posts later was a paid post from my biggest competitor with you in it, I would be very, very upset. I don't know, enough about the contracts to know if that would be breach of contract, but I certainly would feel wronged. And that is why I think it's important to charge brands for this stuff, is because it does limit what you can do inside of that space. If I think part of the question was also, brands asking for extra images and wanting usage rights on those. Again, for a brand to do a cheap e-com shoot, so this is just like they're kind of shooting product on a model in their office, on the lowest end, that's probably $2,000, $2,000 to $3,000 to do that. A campaign shoot on the low end for a brand is probably $10,000 to $15,000. So, when they do those shoots, they obviously own the images, and they get to use them as much as they want. One of the ways that brands are using influencers increasingly is they're not shooting, they're not doing their own campaign shoots. They're using influencers to do them, which I think makes a lot of sense and is much cheaper. But it is something that you should charge for, certainly. You're doing work, there is value there. I'll just back of the napkin say that let's say you charge $3,000 for a sponsored post. If the brand wanted 30 days of usage rights, paid social, econ, I would charge another $1,500 for that probably. That's just the general, again, it varies quite a bit. And you want to be fair, especially if a brand is buying a sponsored post and usage. You want to make sure they get a little bit of economy of scale there. But I also wouldn't give it away. I say that, partially at the detriment of my own company and our work, because whatever I say here, it seems to come back to our team being why are you telling influencers to do this? Because now it's all getting more expensive. So, I say this in some ways at my own detriment, but understand that if you're not charging for usage rights, almost everyone else is. And it's become quite standard. And like any negotiation, you have to understand your value, understand where you are in the space, and be realistic. But this is something that people are used to paying for, and you shouldn't be afraid to charge for it. That's it. I'm done. I got to film another one of these in 2 days. It's going to be even better. We're not going to be here. We're going to be somewhere else. We're not going to be in Costa Rica, but I'm not going to tell you where we're going to be.